Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unlearning. And today we have with us a wonderful, wonderful friend of mine. Her name is Carla Blowey, who many of you know. Carla has gained insight, guidance, and wisdom from her dreams for over 30 years. In 1991, at age 33, she entered the most painful and challenging time of her life when the death of her 5-year-old son, Kevin, and the nightmare that predicted it forced her to re-examine her predictions about death, grief, and the afterlife. Dreaming Kevin became a valuable tool for reclaiming her life. Using her dream journal with much discernment and prayer, she uncovered the personal symbols, metaphors, and archetypes that led to forgiveness, healing, spiritual growth, and new life. In 1997, Carla retired from her job to be present for her growing family. In the midst of changing diapers and teaching her oldest daughter to drive, she answered the call to write Dreaming Kevin. The success of the book is due in part to her ability to write from the heart. Exposing her inner world to others might see differently too. Dreaming Kevin has been divinely guided to serve by inviting the bereaved to see their perceptions about death, grief, and the afterlife in a new light. In 2011, Carla became a certified dream work facilitator through the Marin Institute for Projective Dream Work with director Dr. Jeremy Taylor. And now I will leave you with Carla, who is going to enlighten us a lot about dreams and what they can mean. Here she is, Carla Blowey.
Hello, Estrella. Thank you so much for having me once again in your programs. And I'm always so honored to be in your presence for the love and the light that you offer the bereavement community. So thank you for having me today.
Likewise. Thank you.
And I don't know you from Adam, so I'm here to learn you, and welcome to this platform. Very, very excited to hear about your work and what you're doing now and what you are dreaming about these days.
Thank you, Henry. It was great to meet you for the first time today. That was a delightful introduction that we got to each other.
For sure.
Yeah. You know, when I listened to the introduction that you gave, Estrella, now at 34 years, it's 3.5 decades later from the time that my son Kevin died, and this new world opened up to me about dreaming. I almost have this feeling sometimes of, oh, is that me? Are we talking about me? Because so much life has happened from that moment that my life blew up, and the rebuilding of it over, and the crumbling foundation of it, and having to rebuild it and decide what I wanted to have as a part of my life again. And so fast forward now 34 years, sometimes you forget that all that life has happened in between. And yet, for those of us that understand grieving and who are living that day to day, we can very easily go back to that moment. Yeah. And it brings up emotion for us. It brings up sometimes, memories that have been forgotten, sometimes flashes of things that I don't want to remember. But what I've learned through my dream work is that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because eventually it's going to come out in my dreams. I don't have to do all the processing in my waking life. That my dream work, my dream life is going to open that up once more into an even greater realm of possibilities for creative solutions and processing and understanding and personal and spiritual growth.
I love that you call it dream life, because I do a lot of dream work as well, and one of the symptoms of my journey through grief, my son Cameron passed from brain cancer when he was 13. I was a single father. He was my only child, and so it was, talk about an explosion. One of the symptoms of the diagnosis that I was given of complex PTSD, which I think a lot of us walk around with undiagnosed.
Yes.
One of the best things I ever did was to get diagnosed, because that offered me tools that I would not have had access to otherwise. And out of this experience, I learned that I didn't want to be identified as moving through my life with a stress disorder. I changed SD to spiritual development. Complex post-traumatic spiritual development, because that's what it's been. I figured you might resonate with that.
I love it.
Right?
Henry, I'm stealing it, and I will give you credit.
Thank you. God. And, sleep paralysis is one of the symptoms that I experience, especially around milestone days.
Yeah.
Right? Birthdays, day of passing, summer. I mean, you name it. It could come up anytime. The holidays. And what I've learned, at first it was very scary, because you can't move. You're dreaming, you're lucid, right? You're aware that you're in a dream state, and it's time to wake up, but you can't. You can't open your eyes, you can't wiggle a toe. And at first I was thinking, am I dead? Am I having a stroke? Am I in a coma? Right? It felt that way. And then I broke out of it. And over time of it happening over and over again, I started to understand that there was a rhythm and a pattern to it. And it was my body's way of protecting me from waking triggers. So I started to embrace it and pay attention to what was happening in my dream life. I'm not a scientist on the planet who can tell you whether your dream state or your waking state are what's real. And I think you would agree, both of you, that they are both real. I find that I have much more control in my dream state than I do in my waking state. But I'm able to bring a lot of wisdom, as you do, across the threshold back into my waking life. That's how my book got written, right? As I imagine yours did, right? Did that come to you in a dream state? And do you experience that kind of sleep paralysis? What was the epiphany that, wait a minute, this isn't a dream that's separate from my reality. This is part of my reality.
Well, I have been a dreamer all my life. I can remember dreams back to the time I was 3 years old. And throughout my childhood, I had lots of nightmares. My parents were very supportive in that, but don't worry, it's just a dream.
Right.
Don't worry about that. Don't think about that. It's just a dream. So what do? You repress it. You push it away.
Yep.
Not only brings up more, it brings up more. So it really wasn't, Henry, until I was in maybe a senior in high school. A junior in high school, when I started recording them. And I have been recording my dreams ever since.
You mean in a journal?
In a journal, yes. So let's say I'm 16 years old. I'm 67 years old now. And what I found was the journaling of that allowed me to see it on the paper and diffuse the fear around whatever was happening in the dream. So fast forward to when I'd done some studies and, been in a couple of dream groups and such to the night of the nightmare. That was something unlike anything I had ever experienced in my life. And when you talk about I didn't have a sleep, I wasn't paralyzed in it. I was living it.
Mm-hmm.
It was my reality.
Yeah.
There was no, there was no difference between waking and sleeping when that was happening to me. So when I woke up, did I wake up? The question is, did I really wake up, or was it, just a continuation? So the nightmare itself was the thing that just literally blew my mind. I'd never had anything like that before. And moving forward with it, I was very fortunate that God had already placed the people in my life prior to that who were going to show up and help me. So it was very, very much divine timing in that.
And I do believe that this is a sacred journey. The journey that all of us are on is definitely sacred and divinely guided in every step of the way.
Every step of the way.
And I cannot see it any other way but that way.
And I would say that at 33 years of age, with 2 young children, ages 8 and 5, and 11 years into our marriage, that I wasn't thinking about I wasn't thinking about spiritual journeys or, contracts or agreements or how I was going to be eventually doing this work. None of that was apparent to me at the time, but it had already been decided. So I felt that when I had that nightmare, Kevin was called to fulfill his destiny, and I was being called to pursue mine. I was at first I felt left behind, but then I realized, no, it's about, I have something to do here. I have something to do. So in answer to the question of where did the book come from, the book did come in a dream. I dreamed the cover. I saw it laid out on a table. It was glowing. It looked, it was a piece of a dream, another dream that I'd had about Kevin, created the cover. I knew what the title was. The title was given to me. And that very next day, I was actually on a trip somewhere. So I wasn't even in my own bed. I was visiting at a very good friend's house. And on our way home, I was sort of in this trance. And I was writing what I had dreamed. And then the chapters came to me. The titles of the chapters came, and I began to write those down. There were 30. It never changed. The titles of the chapters never changed. Everything was just there. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do this. I don't write. I journal. I don't write. I journal. But my writing process was very much like that throughout the whole, the 2-3 year period that took me to do it. So long answer to the short question.
But that's great. It's important that you were able to acknowledge that you've always been a dreamer, and I'm not the only one. And I think a lot of people are. I think all of us are, in fact. And that goes back to our most ancient ancestry. You see the cave paintings, right?
Yes.
And there's a very dreamlike quality to that. And so I think a lot of us have books in us that are trying to come through. There are ways, whether it's a book or whether it's songwriting or whether it's playwriting, right?
The message is the message that we are meant to share. with others. And, I have had my own experiences with dreams. And like you, I've been dreaming since I was a child. And the dreams that have a message, I never forget. Then, of course, there's a dream that, is the result of a bad dinner or something like that, where it's all discombobulated. That everybody dreams those, okay? And you wonder, well, am I okay? So I want to ask you a question, okay? Because I know a lot of people come to you who are bereaved parents, but you also work with the general public.
Oh, sure.
Okay, wonderful.
Because dream work
tell us a little bit more about that, and then I want to ask you a question.
Okay, so let's just talk just a little bit about what dream work is. It's a transformative tool. Okay, it's a transformative tool for bringing our dreams of the night and our waking dreams into the light, to see them differently. So symbols and images and recurring themes and odd characters from our personal history are performed like a movie on this private screen behind our eyes, right? We're the only ones that have a ticket to that dream theater.
Yep.
And we're the only ones that will ever see it, feel it, and experience it that way. So that when we bring it to the waking world and we speak the dream and we hear the dream and we see the dream differently and share that in community or share that in groups or one-on-one, we offer an invitation to those that hear it to then offer back to us their feedback.
Right.
But their feedback is always a projection of what they saw in their dream theater, in what they saw in their dream theater. So compelled by, curiosity or fear, we are the captive audience in our own dream theater of the most intimate and private parts of our life. So, we get overwhelmed by our fear, which overwhelms us then about what's happening in the dream, and then it forces us to escape the situation. So literally walk out of the dream theater by waking up. And then that leaves the dream message incomplete. And the more fearful we are of the dream and of those dream images, then the more power we give the dream in its negative aspect. Does that make sense?
How do you define?
It makes a lot of sense.
How do you define fear, Carla?
Where do you think it's residing?
I know where I think it's residing. I think it's the unknown. It's the mystery. We fear what we don't know.
We fear what we don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if that were my statement, and again, as a projection, if that were my statement, I need to find fear. How courageous I am.
Very good.
Say that.
Yes.
So when we're working, a dream one-on-one or in a group, and we view our imagined version of the dreamer's dream in our personal theater, then our projections are based on our personal associations to those symbols that are in there. And my dear friend and mentor and teacher, Jeremy Taylor from the Marin Institute of Projective Dream Work, where I got my certification from, created this technique that's the most non-judgmental way of sharing dreams. And we use a technique that's called "If This Were My Dream," or "In My Imagined Version of Your Dream," or if it was my dream. And that empowers the dreamer to see the dream from another person's perspective. And then it enables the dreamer to accept relatively challenging comments and to hear them, see it differently, and internalize it. And then the most reliable touchstone of receiving that feedback is the aha, where we go,
The aha moment. Yeah.
It's at a gut level. It's a truth at a gut level. I may not understand it, but at a gut level, something is true. Something's true about that for me. And so then, keeping in mind, only the dreamer knows for sure what his or her dreams mean for them. And so this feedback is a richer and deeper view, really, of the dreamer's associations to the symbols and characters.
Very, very.
So as a certified dream work facilitator, that's my role. My role is to create a safe and compassionate and welcoming space for the dreamer to share and explore those multiple layers and meanings of the dream with this technique. So we can do that one-on-one. We can do that in a group. You can do it. I've been in a dream work group that had 30 people in it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Because people think, oh, well, it should just be one-on-one, or, too much conversation. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It is just amazing work to be with that many people firing off their projections. And, oh my gosh, it's just an amazing resource. So, in a smaller setting of, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people in a group, that's what I offer to online and, on Zoom and such webinars and things like that, or in person. So I love both. I love doing one-on-one, and I love doing the group work.
Excellent, excellent. Now, as far as dreams and symbols, okay, the symbols mean different things to different people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I do have dreams where I used to when I was a teenager. I used to fly.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And that has a meaning. Mm-hmm. And I was being chased by a bull, and that has a meaning. Mm-hmm. And now that I'm older, I try to fly and I cannot get off the ground because the gravity pulls me.
What does that mean?
I'm overweight.
Well, here's the thing to remember about dreams is that, and this is another thing that Jeremy taught us so beautifully and with such compassion, is that all dreams speak a universal language, and they come in the service of health and wholeness for healing. And so no dream comes to tell us something that we already know. It'll come, we may think we don't know it, but it's something that's either been repressed or we've avoided, that's been tucked away, that we've forgotten about, or that just at this moment, this is the time that it needs to be addressed.
Yes.
So our dreams are going to contain universal symbols and archetypes and images that people all across the planet can relate to in some way.
That's right.
So the most common symbols, one of the things, Estrella, that you just mentioned was flying. That's a very common thing. Although actually, flying and it's not as it's a common symbol, but it's not as, how do I want to say it? It's not something that most people are doing in their dreams. There's
what does that mean?
Different layers of that. Well, here's the first thing that we would do if we were working that, what does flying mean to you? What are the associations that you have to flying?
If I'm from something, and, when I was younger, I wanted to get away from something.
So if I'm from another planet and I've never heard the word flying before, I have no idea what that means, then I'd ask you to give us your description, your definition of flying. And then you would build on that up. Okay, now what's my personal associations to flying? Have I ever flown in an airplane? Have I ever tried to fly
off a roof?
Off a roof, do I parachute? Do I like glide?
Hang gliding.
Yeah, hang gliding like that. we look at what the experiences are of the dreamer, and they bring that, because then in that particular dream, you might say, oh, I remember this time that I was flying to Europe and I had a very uncomfortable experience. Because that is the association that you came up with as we're working the dream, we might want to look at that. We might want to look at it.
Okay, very interesting. Very
Same thing
good.
about the bull. When you mentioned, dreaming about a bull, what do I think a bull is? If I am meeting someone who has never heard of a bull before, what's my definition to them? And then what's my association to that? What experiences have I actually had with a bull in my waking life?
And being chased by one.
Well, I've never been chased by a real one except for in the dream, but to me, that was someone that I'm always locking horns with.
See?
Nice.
It's all in there.
I know now, but then, no, why am I being chased by a bull? See,
So, Estrella, what you just did was you were able to pull a metaphor from your little warehouse, your warehouse, your resource, your own library. You pulled a metaphor for that and went, I am locking horns with someone. Who is that? Who does the bull represent? Mm-hmm. And also, what aspect of the bull is me?
Oh, listen, the bull was my dad, and we're exactly alike. I learned that as I got older, and we both began to get along beautifully. Why? Because I guess he regressed as he got older, and I grew up as I matured. But it was really interesting. Yeah.
Accepting. Yeah. So we see, so sometimes characters in our dreams show us the shadow part of ourselves, and the bright side of ourselves as well. And we identify with that.
And sometimes you have no connection to the symbol, but the symbol will tell you exactly what it is.
Right.
Case in point. I can tell you a quick story.
Archetypes.
Yeah.
So archetypes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So what is the example that you have, Henry?
So in my journey of now 17 years of being who I am now, after my son's passing, I've been on a quest to find language that I can relate to around identity. Right? There's no word like widow or orphan for parents who have outlived our children to describe ourselves. I mean, there are a few floating around, but nothing was really singing to me. And in one of these paralysis epiphanies, a peregrine falcon swooped down out of the sky and landed in front of me. And just like you said, Carla, it looked up and said, "It's time." Right? And I broke out of my paralysis, and I knew precisely what it meant. It meant that it's time we had a word to turn to that was universally recognizable as a symbol, right? That everybody could grasp, male, female, everything in between, that we can all look to and turn to this sense of identity so we don't have to go and rip our chests open and pour our most sacred pain out onto a table for people who couldn't possibly understand unless they'd already been through it. And so I broke out of my paralysis and I looked up the word peregrine. And wouldn't you know, in the ancient Latin that it comes from, it meant lost traveler. It also meant, and what's funny about this is that my foundation, that's an empowerment organization for parents who have outlived their kids, is called the Lost Travelers Club. That was before the peregrines showed up. So immediately I'm like researching. I woke up, it was 3 a.m. I'm Googling peregrine, finding out what it meant. It also meant a pilgrim, someone on a sacred spiritual journey. It's also universally recognized in the world because it's native to every continent except Antarctica. So people can look at this bird and they can say that's a peregrine. right?
That's a peregrine, right?
You've heard of the Camino de Santiago, the spiritual path here in Spain and
Yes. Oh,
well, what do they call the walkers? Peregrinos,
Peregrinos.
oh,
Peregrines.
right?
Peregrinos.
So it was
oh.
ticking all the boxes, and I thought, and it's genderless, right?
Yes.
And symbolically, in every culture, it means courage, strength, and resilience.
Oh my gosh.
So
Oh,
now I redesigned my branding. Our logo for the Lost Travelers Club is a peregrine. We refer to one another. I talk about it all the time, don't I, Estrella? That now we have a word that we can turn to. And if you don't resonate with it, you don't resonate with it. But what I'm finding is that most people who hear it and hear the story or read it on the website, they get it, they resonate with it, and they identify themselves as a peregrine. So now when somebody says, Carla, do you have any kids? Well, yes. And I'm also a peregrine.
And I'm also a peregrine.
Right.
Yeah.
And you don't have to go into it if you don't want to, because the question that comes back would be, what is a peregrine?
What is a peregrine?
And you get to talk about that.
You get to talk
That
about
is really a very, very.
And it came in my dream state. It came, and the symbol revealed itself to me when the time was right. It even said those words, it's time. And it told me what it meant. It revealed to me what it meant. So I didn't have to go searching through the deep, dark recesses of my psyche to figure out what, where have I ever even thought of a peregrine? How does it relate to me? What is the symbol? I didn't have to, because the symbol
came to you.
It came to you. And it means something to you, even if other people don't understand it.
Yeah.
It answered your question. And so you can use that.
An inner shift in our identity.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yes. And that right there, Henry and Estrella, is the thing. There's a shift that happens.
Yes.
A shift in awareness, a shift in consciousness that raises us, that truly raises us up, lifts us up out of that.
That's right.
Dire, the doom, the desperateness, the hopelessness that we feel at that moment, that we can. And because what am I trying to say? Because it's so deeply ingrained in us, or rooted, maybe rooted is the word, that it's an anchor. We can come.
It is an anchor.
The tether. Yeah. Right? That's another thing I love about the peregrine metaphor, is that it's used since medieval times and before as a hunting bird. It's a bird of prey, and they would tether the bird to their arm, right? So back to your metaphor, Estrella, about flight. It also represents flight and untethering.
Untethering, that is true. That is true.
And a freedom, right? The peregrine is also the fastest animal on the planet.
It is.
In flight.
Yes.
It has been clocked at over 200 miles an hour.
And a peregrine is also a person that is on a long journey.
Yeah. A pilgrim.
Okay. And what we are all on a long journey. There's really no point that we can say, oh, I have arrived. No, it's a constant evolving of our thoughts, our emotions, our understanding. So I want to share a dream with you, because this is one dream visitation that I had from my son Bert, who died by suicide. Okay. And I was angry that he took that step, but I understood that it was a choice. Yes. So for me, there was no judgment on my part. There was acceptance, although I prefer not to have had to accept what was. I had no choice. Okay. Carla, I wanted to share with you a dream that I had of my son Bert. And this happened maybe months after his passing. We were somewhere in what appeared to be a dock. and there was it wasn't a cruiser, but it was like a huge battle boat. It looked like, okay, an old boat. But what really impressed me about the dream is that it was colorless and everything was gray. There was a lot of traffic, people coming and going, people of all ages. And most of them were going up inside the boat. And there was only one person coming down, and it was Bert. And as he was coming down the ramp, he was looking at me. I mean, just like that. It was amazing. I knew that he was coming for me.
For you.
And as he approached, and there was no conversation, it was all thought. He put his hand on his heart. And I understood that he had been hurt very badly. And he wasn't himself. He just didn't see any other way out. But that he was fine, that he was okay. And again, there was no expression on his face whatsoever, which pretty much, I think, is the way it is with some of the dreams that I've had and visitations that I've had from other family members. Sometimes there is no expression,
Right.
But the communication is strictly through thought. I did have another dream, and this one was definitely more pleasant. I was in bed, and I was awakened by Bert sitting on the side of the bed. And I went, Bert. And he went, hi, Mom, just like he does. Hi, Mom. And I wanted to know, and I didn't know what to ask him, but I said, Bert, tell me, how is it? And in his nonchalant way, he always went, he said, it's okay. And he said, I didn't have to go through a review. And I thought, and I said, well, that is a possibility because, our souls are pure, right? And they're extensions of the divine. So why would they have to go through a review if they haven't done anything but just observe, be the observer? And sometimes I also think that we are given numerous opportunities to right a wrong in this lifetime.
Yes.
And therefore, there is no need to repeat. Okay. So it was very, very comforting.
Yeah.
And he was smiling here, and he was actually speaking to me. Okay. It was his voice. I've had many, many, many dreams, and there is one that I had just the other day. And you know how sometimes, and this was not a visitation or anything like that, but you know how sometimes we have things thrown at us that are constantly irritating us, and it gets to the point that we're just, ugh. Well, in this dream, they were not little people. They were just smaller than normal size, and their faces were a little bit distorted, okay? And they were just aggravating. They were like ants arguing like that, okay? And approaching, getting closer to me. And so I took a deep breath, and I became this huge human being. And then they stopped bothering me. And they were going towards a girl that I didn't know. I always dream about people I don't know in this lifetime. Okay. And I said, try it because it works for me. And she tried it and she couldn't do it. Well, in one of the memes that I've read, I read that, we are bigger than our problems.
Yes.
And so to me, that was my confirmation that I can overcome anything that comes to me. And all that I have to do is be my authentic self and be bigger than that little aggravation that is in front of me.
Yeah.
So that was amazing.
I love that, Estrella, because as I was listening to your dream and thinking, if it were my dream, I love the confirmation or the validation in the dream of that I am bigger than the problem. I am bigger than my fears, and the the growth within the dream of how I grow, I become bigger, is also for me, if it were my dream, an indication that I have this power, I have this ability to grow within each circumstance and be bigger. I love that. I also loved how you have discerned the difference between the dream visits and this annoyance dream or whatever. And the thing about dream visits, they can overlap. The visit can overlap with a grief issue. And oftentimes we want to just focus on the visit. That's all we want to see about the dream. When there are clues or there's other things in there that we could be looking at, or that our loved one has volunteered to bring to our attention, if we could only see past them in the dream, And so I love how you discerned that in both of your the both types of dreams.
Thank you. It really brought a lot of peace.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in many ways it may have been a healing dream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, you had the aha.
Yeah.
If you think back on it and how you felt about it, that even though there wasn't, you weren't speaking, it was all telepathic, it was all via thought, there was also feeling associated with that. And if it were my dream, and in the dream visits, dreams that I've had, there's just this aha of this is real, this is a truth for me, this is that strong indication of, at a soul level, that something is true. Mm-hmm. And truth is healing.
It is very healing.
If we are willing to see truth and hear truth, it is healing. And that's what I love about this tool, because in the projective format, even relatively challenging comments that are made from, with the feedback from other dreamers, if we're working a dream, can be heard by the dreamer and internalized, because we're not saying, this is what I think your dream means. This is what your dream means to me in the context of my associations, my life. So.
Excellent. So, thank you.
Thanks for sharing that. I love hearing dreams, love hearing anything that anyone wants to share. It's limitless.
It is limitless. Yeah.
Well, I know that I've had similar dreams and similar messages. My son saying that, it's all thought. There's no form on the other side, but that's why we come here, is to put that thought into action. Mm-hmm. He equated it to the Wizard of Oz. Oh. Which was really beautiful. He said that wizard crash lands his balloon in the Emerald City, and the only reason he's there is to deliver a message to Dorothy, the Scarecrow, Tin Man, and the Lion that they already have, but they didn't think they had. And when he delivers the message, he takes off in the balloon again. He said it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
I love that. That's a great image. I think a great metaphor too.
And for someone else, the message may come in a different way, but you and your son have some sort of connection to the Wizard of Oz, or he knew that you had some associations or whatever to the Wizard of Oz, to be able to bring that into the dream, to say, here, Dad, want to get your attention, I'm going to use this.
It was relatable. Absolutely. Do you have, not to get too personal into your business, but do you ever have these kinds of dreams yourself?
I do. Yes, I do. I've been really fortunate over the years, even before Kevin died, and I was doing, and before I started doing really intense therapy and dream work. Even before that, I can remember dreams back to the time I was, 3 years old. And I remember one of the first dreams I had that was an actual, a dream visit was my grandmother coming to me.
Oh, wow.
And I was 11. I think I was 11 years old. I didn't tell a soul. I didn't tell anybody because I had been told all through my early childhood, oh, that's silly. That's just a dream. Don't worry about it. Because I was having a lot of nightmares. I was having very intense dreams. And when I would share them, my parents were loving and, supportive and everything, but it wasn't their thing.
Mm-hmm.
And their first response was to calm their child. And
right.
And so
I have a lot of clients who deal with nightmares, and it makes perfect sense. If there was a trauma associated with the passing, or if they imbue it with a great deal of despair and sorrow, those things manifest in our dream state. And one of the things that I talk about quite often and how to work with that is to go into your dream state asking for permission to be in control, because they are your dreams after all. They don't belong to anybody else, right? And if something dark comes up, all you have to do is pull a magic wand out of the sky, turn it into a cupcake and eat it, right? And fly away. I mean, you have that power in your dream state. And, I think that the more we start, I want to hear what you think about this, the more we start consciously working with our dreams, not thinking that they're outside of us, but they're with us, that they are as real as your waking state, just in a different way. Then what we find is that as we become more empowered in our dream state, we can actually bring some of that strength, resilience, wisdom across the threshold and apply it in our waking state.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree, Henry. I think that's a wonderful, wonderful way to affirm your clients in their journey and in their processing, because, when we look at what's happening either in a recurring dream or in a nightmare, it's those types of dreams come to us because they signify an issue in the dreamer's life that's unresolved. And it's connected to trauma and loss and significant stress or whatever. And they reflect that anxiety and the fears that about past experiences that have been repressed. So, when it's a cry for help, it's like the soul's cry for help, for a desire for healing and balance and reconciliation, on this emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual level. And so the dream's going to present the most bizarre issue, or present it in the most bizarre way to get your attention about the issue. And re-entering a dream, or setting an intention. Like if I'm having these nightmares, setting an intention before I go to sleep that I want to recall the dream, that I'm open, ready, and willing to receive the love and support that is going to be, given to me in the dream. I can do some reality check stuff with lucid dreaming, where when these nightmares come up, I can, set that intention or do these reality checks of, oh, that showed up again. Whatever that is connected to the trauma, that keeps showing up, and my attention sort of veers to that, and I'm lucid. And then I can say, oh, I've got to pay attention to whatever that is.
Right. And I'm in control.
Yes.
I'm in control. Right.
I am ultimately always in control, which is the one thing that we overdo in not letting the nightmare play out and waking ourselves up.
Yeah.
Or having a dream that's unpleasant or is presenting issues or messages or whatever that we don't want to hear, and we wake up and walk out of the dream theater before it's finished. So yes, there's so much that's designed in our best interest.
Yeah.
About dreaming, that if we're willing to recognize that and accept it, it diffuses the fear and it empowers us.
Yeah. And to pay attention when there are recurring dreams, because those are often unresolved issues that keep coming back to say, hey, remember me? Right.
Remember me, right. And the recurring, the issue might be presented in 100 different ways, but it's recurring. It's still a recurring dream when that issue continues to come up. And so it's like the dream writers that kind of sit down and go, the script writers say, let's find a different scenario to say the same thing.
Yeah.
See if she says, I think I'll pay attention to that.
What about saga dreams? Have you ever had saga dreams where it's like you're watching a episodic television, right? So it's like a series. It's like you go to sleep, you dream the dream, and then the next night it picks up where it left off. Do you ever?
Yes.
I get that all the time.
I've had that happen in one night, not necessarily, in successive nights, but I've had it happen in one night, and I'm exhausted by the time I wake up because, you wake up and you keep re-entering and going back to the same thing. But yeah. There's lots of ways that they're going to get our attention one way or another. And, and people will say, well, I don't dream. A lot of people, it's not for me. I don't dream. And I don't believe that's true. Although I don't really have I can't say that I had the science to back that up, but everything that I've read says that we do dream. It's just our ability or willingness to recall. Right. And that is affected greatly by our sleep environment, our physical health, our mental health, our sleep hygiene. All of those things will affect that dream recall. And
what do you recommend to people who want to but just can't? There are so many, especially parents, peregrines, right, who are waiting for the dream. They're waiting for the dream, praying that it'll come, and it just doesn't. For me, it took 9 months. Like, what do you say to people whose dreams of their children or their loved ones have not come?
That is really hard. It's not that that's a hard question, Henry, but it's just very hard to answer because we're so unique, and everybody's journey is different. And readiness, to me, is the key. Readiness, and I can't determine what your readiness would be versus mine. So, the one thing that we've always we want immediately is contact. We want some sort of contact with them. We want to see them again. We want to see them as we knew them. And I haven't figured out what that formula is.
And reassurance that they're okay.
And the reassurance. So I also know, though, that there are other ways that my loved ones have communicated to me other than dreams, because I am fortunate in saying that I dream a lot about my loved ones, and either I've dreamt their impending deaths, or I've received messages from them afterwards, or had visits or whatever. But it's so unique. Our journeys are so unique, and I think that because some of us have received other signs outside of the dream world, those little whispers, the nudge, the song, as cliche as they may sound, the penny, the penny on the ground. There are specific things that to your relationship with the loved one, if we're willing to recognize and be aware of those things, that might be the doorway,
Right.
into dreaming more. So what do I say to a parent who says, I haven't had that dream, is my prayer for you is that it will come in some way, that it'll either be a waking dream or it'll be a sleep dream.
Yeah.
It will come when the parent is ready. And let's not forget that spirits also have free will.
And they also,
exactly. So I think most parents are looking at it from a one-way standpoint. When am I going to get that dream? I want that dream. I want to be able to make it happen. But we don't make things happen.
Right.
Things happen when they're supposed to, and we really don't have that much control.
No.
Okay.
Well, and Estrella, you hit on a very good point there, is because there's this thought that, well, I love you. The depth of my love should reward me or afford me this visit.
Should be enough.
It's not.
This should be enough. And oh my gosh, there's so much we don't know.
It's not an entitlement.
It could be happening all the time. We could snap our fingers and say, oh.
Here's something that has come to me in this past year that I've been working with, not only in my counseling, but just in my own journey. That there's one frequency, and that frequency is love. Love is there. The love is there. You love your children. You love your loved ones, your partners, your friends, your pets, right? The love is there, but love is not enough. Love, even frequency.
Love is not
frequency
enough.
Requires an energy to move it between people, even between nations. And what is the energy that moves love? It's trust.
Trust.
And so to be able to trust that the dream will come, to be able to trust that you can connect now, today, you don't have to wait for a dream.
Right.
You can have that conversation right now. Do you ever have those moments where you hear the voice in your head? Who's speaking to you?
Yeah.
Oh,
You?
It could be our higher self.
It could be our
It
higher
could
self.
be,
It could be your
I've heard Bert's voice
one, right?
and
It
my
could be your
dad's
loved one,
voice plainly.
right? And so one of the things, the tool that I use to help people connect is to imagine say it's their child. Imagine your child's voice, and what was something that they would often say, just like a catchphrase that they would say, right? Sometimes it's, mom, or I love you, dad, or whatever, right? I'm going to the park. Whatever that catchphrase is that you remember them saying, hear it. Hear it, and hear it in their voice. And that is a moment of connection that you can build upon. Once you've heard that voice, it's not you talking, it's them. You're hearing them, right? Not with your ears, but with your inner ear. You can have that conversation. Ask them, how are you doing? How's heaven? Right? Or how is it on the other side if you don't believe in heaven? Whatever the question is, start fostering a communication with them, because it can happen now. It can happen in a moment. And part of the trust is trusting yourself that you're capable of making that connection as well, right? So love and trust can't move.
Right. And let go of the expectation of how they're going to answer.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Acceptance, trust,
and
into the process. We have 5 minutes left. I can't believe it's been an hour. What a wonderful experience this has been, Carla.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Same here.
I love having the conversation with like-minded people.
Isn't it great? Yeah. It's a growing community always. And talk about love. Talk about trust, right? It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yep.
Do you have any questions, Estrella, that are burning in you, or Carla, anything burning in you that you want to share?
Well, I just want to share something about dreams, okay, for people who are wondering why they're not getting a dream. Well, sometimes the relationships between parent and child, or child and mother, a parent, can be very complicated, okay?
Mhm. Yes.
And after they pass, we want to, and we just remember the good times. We almost forget how complicated the relationships may have been. Well, such was my relationship with my mother. And we loved each other very much, but we were two totally different people, and we argued a lot.
Right.
Well, it took me 30 years to get a dream visitation from her.
Oh.
And since then, she visits me, and what do? We argue.
We argue.
Talk about unresolved conflict. I haven't figured that one yet. But anyway, thank you so much for sharing all the wonderful things. You have definitely opened my mind even more.
Great. That's good.
Yes.
I appreciate that. Well, thank you
So-
for the opportunity to share my work and to share dreams as we did earlier, and to, I like this format because it allows people to hear others' experiences with it and know that this isn't something that is the dream work is not a parlor game.
Right.
And I'm dating myself by using that phrase, I'm sure, but that, it's not a game. It's something to be taken seriously as a tool that is empowering, but that there's also great joy from that. And there's humor. There's humor in it. There is adventure in it. There are lots of ways that we can access the inner world to know what the soul is asking of us, what the divine is asking of us in our growth.
Yeah.
So,
well, I have one last question for you, Carla.
Yes.
What brings you to a place of peace, or what aligns you with your peace?
That is a good question.
What brings me to a place of peace is surrender. If I can surrender my expectations, my judgments, my fears, that seems to take me to a momentary place of peace. I'd love to stay there more often, but I would say surrender.
Well, surrender is trust, after all, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It is. It is. We cannot surrender unless we trust. And Carla, where can the viewers find you?
Oh, okay. So dreamingheaven.com. On my website, you'll see services tabs, and you'll see a bio tab and some excerpts about the book and lots of information on there. I'm also on, Facebook. My Facebook profile is Carla Blowey, and then it'll say Dreaming Kevin after that.
Okay.
And Messenger, I like it when people message me too. So email.
Great. Well, we'll put all your information in the description box so people can reach you.
Great. And I on that services tab, you'll see where, viewers will see that there's an opportunity to create your own Zoom group, customize your own dream group. So you invite a few friends, invite some trusted friends to form a small group. We meet twice a month, once a month, whatever it is that works for you. And this format online reaches so many people.
It really does.
Around the world. So wherever you are, we can make it.
Well, and a shameless plug for this platform that we are on, which is called Go Brunch. And if you're interested in forming that group in here, I know a lot of people are zoomed out. It's, in your face, that Brady Bunch box that has no personality to it at all.
Yeah.
It's exhausting. It is for me anyway. And I found Go Brunch, and now I've got 3 podcasting studios in here. I do a monthly virtual retreat. Estrella and I do a weekly support group, grief support group. There's a lot that you can do in this environment that takes you completely out of the Zoom mode and into a complete other world. And you can build that world. You're as limited as your imagination. So look up Go Brunch, or you can reach me, Henry-Cameron Allen, and
The hermit.
yes, Hermie. I'm the resident hermit.
Hermie. Dr. Hermie.
Yeah. Or you can reach out to Estrella as well. Estrella, do you want to share your website as well?
Sure. Our group is From Grief to Hope, and you can find us at fromgrieftohope.org.
And our partnership between From Grief to Hope and my foundation, the Lost Travelers Club, which is simply losttravelers.club. Can you believe I got that URL? You can find out more about my work. You can find out there's a link to Estrella's work there as well. And Carla, like I had said before, I would love to have your work be a resource that we can add to our library.
I will add a link to your work as well. I think I've already added it, but I need to check again. So, yeah, definitely. We'll all be linking.
Carla, thank you so much.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Love you.